Unfortunately, the Secretary of State left the room, but Secretary of State of Development Affairs, President Skapin, President Dimitriadis, ladies and gentlemen. Even before Europe was united in an economic level or was convinced at the level of economic interest and trade, it was culture that united all the countries of Europe. The arts, literature, music are the connecting link of Europe. Let me quote István Bibó, Hungarian political expert on the values of European culture. It has been a great value of European culture that it has developed self-conscious groups of professionals, artists, organizers, and educators for centuries who keep a watchful eye on the techniques, inner principles of their own art, and on the independence of their profession against any influence or command of power. This deeply realistic and truth-respecting professional self-consciousness exists in the land-loving farmer, the excelling craftsman, the modern skill worker, the independent judge, the passionate teacher, the university authority, the creative artist, the scholar, and the inventor. Europe's citizens will not turn into Europeans only by rational arguments. They must also be motivated emotionally. They must want to make an active contribution to this process. As President Barroso has stated more than once, economy is necessary for our lives, but culture makes lives worth living. Article 151 actually requires taking the cultural dimension into consideration in connection with other community policies. Culture is an indispensable ingredient of the European project and integration. It is a matter for all citizens and not only for the institutions and authorities. However, does anything like a European culture and identity exist? We live in Europe with an often conflictive past. Past is not only being history, but woven into the cultural canvas and being an integral part of our identities, which shape today's perception. As Annemarie Zygmunt argued in her president's program for the EEC, the dialogue about values and the application of shared values in life are part of a formative cultural process, which can help in the formation and strengthening of an identity at European level. Dimitris Dimitriadis, president of the European Economic and Social Committee, in his presidential program mentioned that the main motive of his program is entrepreneurship with a human face. Our Europe needs to encourage entrepreneurship at all levels of society and in all its forms. The ultimate purpose is to preserve our European social model. Why is it significant to have European identity as such, and what is the basis of it? Some people suggest that we need to create a European identity, implicating that none existed so far. Others argue that in spite of the complexity and diversity of European past, with all its conflicts and competition, there is simultaneously a long history of common identity and a sense of shared community. But the power of national identities and stereotypes constructed and strengthened during the 19th century overshadowed and undermined European identity. And two major catastrophic and devastating wars marked the following 20th century in Europe. But as Professor Rodriguez Salgado points out, with war being the ultimate proof of this unity, it ultimately has a unifying power. War has promoted a search for unity in Europe and forced people to recognize the need for a political structure and an underlying political and moral philosophy which will prevent further bloodshed. Our European Union has achieved so much over the last 50 years. Fortunately, we do not lose our fathers, brothers, husbands, sons and grandsons in wars, as we have peace. The free movement of goods, services, capital, and workers opened the borders, and intercultural dialogue has begun with art, tourism, migration, multilingualism, the single European currency, the huge European single market, etc. But do all this create European identity? Do all this create transnational democracy? What is the challenge of the next 50 years? By using the lessons we have learned and the capabilities we have built up, we can promote our values and interests not only externally, but also within the European Union and tackle the global and EU-related challenges. The European Union, the European project, has been affecting the life of all its citizens to a large extent. The economies, but also societies as a whole, are profoundly shaped by the decisions made collectively at the European level. Building Europe is not a project that can be concluded in a fixed time span, but an ongoing and hopefully never-ending process legitimated by and with the active participation of European citizens. The European project can only work if it is based on the consent of its citizens. Therefore, their participation and involvement in the ongoing debate and construction of Europe has to be strengthened. As Commissioner Wallström has pointed out, the EU is still a very new experiment in transnational democracy, which means that we have to continue our efforts to find ways of making this experiment work better. Is it possible that intercultural dialogue is not working as properly as it should? Is it possible that European citizens have consent about their future prospects? Is it possible that they do not feel safe enough in the united Europe? Is it possible that they are worrying about their national identities? And is it possible that there is not enough information available for them and there is not enough dialogue in participatory democracy? Is there a specific role of civil society here? How can contribute to a more democratic Europe? The organized civil society EEC represents can lend a helping hand as before. To achieve active citizenship, we need to strengthen European identity, the feeling of belonging together and of working on the same project. Creating a European public sphere requires the national public spheres to open up for actors and issues from other countries and the EU itself. Organized civil society plays a key role in the search for identity, the debate about the future of Europe. The success of the process of creating European identity as a unifying factor is only possible if it is supported by an active European civil society and displayed out in the European public arena, creating thus a European public discussing and defining the fundamental question, i.e., which model of society we want in Europe. This means participation in the preparatory and decision-making of the political arena. We want a living participatory democracy. European culture is the soul of Europe. Intercultural dialogue, its circulation. The tool encouraging European identity and active citizenship. It is time to define culture from the aspects of organized civil society. The traditional approach refers only to the classic arts as culture. By now, this we can regard as a complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. Thus, EEC supports intercultural dialogue and its strengthening, especially to develop cultural awareness and expression, social and civic competences, and communication in foreign languages. Intercultural dialogue, in order to unfold the utmost potential for democratization, needs to be the most inclusive, not only with respect to the number of countries involved, but also to the largest possible inclusion of groups within the national spheres. Also, the white paper on European governance stresses the importance of involving civil society organization in its conclusion processes. Civil society plays an important role in giving voice to the concerns of the citizens and delivering services that meet people's needs. Civil society increasingly sees Europe as offering a good platform to change policy orientations and society. It is a real chance to get citizens more actively involved in achieving the Union's objectives and to offer them a structured channel for feedback, criticism, and protest. Organized civil society plays an important role as facilitators of a broad policy dialogue, providing forums for debating public policies and disseminating information, thereby making the debate more inclusive, integrating the views and interests of the different groups or of society at large. Organized civil society helps to build the European public sphere. From this stance, the EEC, with its focus on EU issues and articulating societal interest in the public sphere, brings the European Union closer to its citizens. Multiculturalism has different phases resulting from migration into the EU or within, but also anchored in European history with minorities in Central and Eastern Europe, e.g. Sinti and Roma. Diversity is a source of enrichment, but it has always been a source of tension within human societies as well. Therefore, it will be an important task to make sure that the increasing diversity of the enlarged and still enlarging Union is seen as a part of the richness of Europe, not as a risk or a threat. This will be one of the big challenges, moving from a multicultural society to an intercultural society. Where is the difference? I don't want to tell it partly because everybody will get this speech, I hope so, and you can get it on our website. But I would like to edit some thoughts from Zoltán Kodály. Culture is the only thing that cannot be inherited. As Zoltán Kodály, Hungarian composer, said, "It can only be handed over, which is the responsibility of adults and national governments. Even though handed from generation to generation, it is not static but changeable in space and time, a result of intercultural exchange, innovation and creativity. Diversity should be seen as a resource enriching our lives, not as a threat. Therefore, intercultural education and the development of specific abilities, intercultural competencies becoming more and more important with the awareness of one's own culture as the starting point in the successful process of intercultural education. The reach that aim, the familiarity with the various ethnic and cultural groups is needed. Therefore, the EEC proposed in its opinion that a handbook of European cultures should be written, which could become a basic test for developing European citizenship. This handbook should be extended with the specific characteristics of certain trades and professions, e.g., patient, doctor, teacher, student consultation. Intercultural competence includes the ability to orient in a world of pluralism and use the intercultural communication and interaction as an enrichment for oneself and others, thus achieving an attitude of tolerance, respect, and openness toward different lifestyles and life forms. Besides education and the crucial role of the media in fostering dialogue and mutual understanding, workplace is one of the most important areas where intercultural dialogue can be put into practice. The dialogue happens on an international level, e.g., within the European Work Councils, when employers and trade unions deal with companies with activities in several countries. But there are, of course, more examples, such as training police officers to get sensitized to the cultural dimension when dealing with migrants or people of other religions or ethnics. There are plenty of projects and initiatives that aim at enhancing intercultural dialogue, may it be at community, national, regional, or local level, and where civil society plays a crucial role. Organized civil society can be the only tool between European and national citizens and the European and national institutions and authorities, as all Europeans need information and possibilities to participate in the participatory democracy at the national and European level. EEC strongly believes that these rights are not only for Europeans, but for everybody living together with us within the EU in an inclusive society. This is reflected not only in the EEC opinions, but also in the exhibitions and conferences we organize in our buildings, named after Jacques Delors. He was the one who gave us the following 4 pillars: learning to know, learning to be, learning to listen, learning to live together. The first 3 pillars being the basis for learning to live together, developing an understanding of others and their history, traditions, and spiritual values, and recognizing the growing interdependence would induce people to implement common projects and manage conflicts in a spirit of respect for the values of pluralism and mutual understanding in an intelligent and peaceful way. Thank you so much.